Hello, everyone. This is Debra Richardson, and today I am putting the AP in Happy, where accounts payable teams are empowered to protect the vendor master file from fraud. This podcast will give a voice to accounts payable team members by talking about the growing reality of cyber attacks in their world and which vendor setup and vendor management techniques they can apply to protect the vendor master file from fraud. Need training? Visit the Vendor Process Training Center to enroll in your choice of weekly live and on-demand training sessions. Plus, get access to vendor setup form templates and reference tools that will help you and your team avoid fraud, fines, and bad vendor data. So sign up for a free account to get access to free training sessions, vendor process FAQs, and a resource library with information you need to manage your vendor master file. Visit training.debrarrichardson.com today. The link will be in the show notes. Are you and your team members making confirmation calls to your vendors to confirm remittance information? If so, and I know a lot of you are you using confirmation call scripts? So in this episode, see how they can be valuable to prevent fraud and make the person receiving the call more apt to confirm their information. Keep listening. Welcome to episode 315, Confirmation Call Scripts number 1, Changing Banking Details for ACH Wire Payments. Now, the name means that I'm going to have more confirmation call episodes, but I don't know how many yet. So I'm just going to start today with a confirmation call script for changing bank details for ACH wire payment. But just know, right, I've got different scripts for when you're adding banking details for ACH wire payment. So maybe that'll be number 2. I also have one where you're adding a remittance address for a check payment, or when you're changing a remittance address for a check payment. And then I thought I have one, so it's at least going to be those, but I thought I had one for adding a bank details. Oh, that's it. Adding bank details for ACH wire payment. Because that could be where you have a situation where a vendor has a check payment, right? They're getting a check payment. And, of course, we all want to convert them to something else. And so they could use that as the adding bank details for ACH wire payment. That confirmation call script when the existing payment method is a check payment. So anyway, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 more, because I do have one for a voicemail. And I know a lot of your leadership, IT team members, systems team members, maybe even your InfoSec group, information security group, will say don't leave voice messages. However, that is because, and it's true, right? When they call back, you don't know who's calling you back. But there is an authentication process built into these confirmation call scripts. And so that way you can leave a voicemail, because when they call you back, you're going to make sure that you are speaking with your actual vendor and not a fraudster. So we're going to include that. So how many did I say that was? I think it was 4 more. So a total of 5 podcasts. And it's a perfect time for it to be done too, because you're going to be doing a lot of that as the fraudsters know that we're going into year end, because this is about to be year end 2024. And they're going to be pulling all kind of tricks, right, to get you to change your vendor's remittance information. And so these confirmation call scripts will come in very handy. So a total of 5, this is the first one. And this first one is going to focus on the one that we see most often, is where the fraudsters are asking to change banking details for ACH wire payment. Now, first, though, I want to get started and talk about what the problems are with making the confirmation call. Like, why do you even need a script? Well, the first thing that I've seen as problems as I talk to conference goers in person, as I talk to clients, as I talk to subscribers, is that the vendors are just not picking up the phone. But when they do pick up the phone, they have had issues because the vendors, the points of contacts that they're talking to, aren't really comfortable with getting a phone call out of the blue and saying, because it's not always them that submitted the request, and saying, right, responding to the fact that you're asking for banking information. So that can be, and I've been on the other side of that too. I've been on the other side of that when I started with a client new, and they actually made the confirmation call when they added banking, not just when banking was changed. And so to have someone call me and say, confirm your banking, was a little bit out of the norm. It was very uncomfortable, but we're going to try to change that, right? Make the person, that's why you need to make the person on the other end feel comfortable with you and making that confirmation call. Because if you think about it, right, they don't know who you are either. You may not know who they are and may not know that they want to verify that they are the ones that submitted the change. But when you call, they don't know who you are, and what are you doing to verify to them that you are who you say you are? So we're going to incorporate that into the confirmation call. So that's another issue with it. Another issue that I've seen is that those making the call really reveal too much information. And so there's really not any authenticating information because they're revealing it all. Like team members will say the entire bank account that they're changing it to, and that could be used as authenticating data to make sure they are who they say they are. They're the ones that are that either submitted it or they do know what it should be as a validation, but you're giving up that chance for that authentication by saying it. So you'll notice we don't include that, or it's not included in a confirmation call. And then another thing too is that team members are not using the information. They are using the information in the email or in the invoice. Now, you know not to do that. I know not to do that. But if you have a situation where there's an employee that's not you, right, that is just trying to get their work done, and they don't have any information in the vendor master file to contact the vendor to verify the bank change, they don't have any contact information, they're going to go and look on the web. And if the vendor doesn't have a web presence, then what is it that they're going to do as this request is pending and aging? A lot of them, you may not believe it, but a lot of them will go ahead and use the information on the invoice or in the email. And fraudsters love that because they will definitely approve and confirm that bank account change. All right, so with that, let's get started then on the confirmation cost script for a change in banking details for ACH or wire payment. And so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to have a little introduction, right? You're going to start off by saying, good morning, good afternoon, right? My name is, and you're going to say your name, and you're going to say, I am from, and then you're going to input your company. So if it were me, I work for Acme Company, I would say, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Debra Richardson, and I am from Acme Company. Then you would further go on to say, I have a request that has been received from. And you're going to include either the person at your vendor's place of business or your internal employee name, that the person that you are talking to, that you are calling, that they know, because that will put them at ease. So you can say a request has been received from John Doe at your company or at our company to make a change to your existing banking information that will affect future payments. And so saying who you are, saying what company you're from, and actually giving them a name that they know may be enough to support the fact that they know that they are doing business with your company, and they know the internal request, your internal employee's name or their internal employee name, who I call the vendor requester. That should put them at ease to know that you are who you say you are. Now, the next thing is you will say a confirmation is required to prior to any change. So you're letting them know that a request has been made for existing banking change and that a confirmation is required prior to any change. Now, the next thing you're going to ask is you're going to confirm that they are the right person, right? You're actually giving them an out. If they didn't know the names that you supplied, if they were not familiar with your company and that you're doing business with them, then they can give you the right person that can confirm the old and the new banking. And so if they don't have that information right, they can still go ahead and give you that right person. But if they are the right person, then you're going to say, please confirm the last 5 digits of the existing routing number and the last 5 digits of the existing bank account number that we have on file. And what that does is if you have this process in place, and let's say you have one of those direct reports that's going to grab the information from the invoice or from the email, and they're doing this process, they're going through this script. Now they are using authentication by asking the person that they're reaching out to confirm whether it's a fraudster or the real vendor, right? What the existing banking details are that are on file. And they're going to have that information up, and they're going to verify that whatever the person gives them is what is on file on the vendor record in the vendor master file. Now, what's going to happen is if they did contact a fraudster, the fraudster, not knowing this information, will just hang up. And that will be the red flag that it's fraud. But if they did give that information and authenticate it, then you're going to go further and ask to confirm the last 5 digits of the new routing number and the last 5 digits of the new bank account number. And that's additional verification that, one, the information is valid and that the change is valid. And what this will also do is verify that you have the right information that you need to change it to. And by the way, the reason that I only ask for the confirmation of the last 5 digits is because in this hybrid world, we don't know who's working from home, who's working from the coffee shop, who's working from the library, who's working from a co-working space, right? They could be anywhere. You don't want to have anyone say the entire banking routing number or account number, because you don't want to give that sensitive information out to whomever may be listening. So you want to use at least the last 5 digits, but use more than the last 4 digits, because statements will come out, and bank statements typically will truncate all to the last 4 digits. And so you don't want to give fraudsters who, get a hold of the bank statements the ability to authenticate just because you're only asking for the last 5 digits or the last 4 digits. Make sure you ask for the last 5 digits. Now, that's a perfect confirmation. But if that's successful, you can tell them, thank you for confirming. And then also ask them, right, for their email address so that you can send them a confirmation once the information has been updated. So what this gives you is it gives you the email address of someone that is valid at the company that you can use to put another control in place. And I think I've talked about this before, but I will most likely have it. If I don't have it, I'm going to add it probably next week. And it's going to be on the YouTube channel. And when that does happen, I'm going to come back and link to it. Or if it's already there, I'll link to it in the show notes. And I'll put a video up of why you will want to add the email address of the person that you're confirming with so that you can send them a notice of change. And I'll explain that. I think I already have one on my YouTube channel, a vendor master file tip of the week, and I will link to it in the show notes. If I don't already have one, I'm going to create one and just come back if you don't see it, and I will link it probably within a week of when you're listening to it, if it's not already there. So you want to grab their email address so you can send them that confirmation that something has changed. And that's the confirmation that you get when either one of us, right, will have that you will get when you change either of your online accounts, like your bank account information, your profile on YouTube, on Amazon, right? You'll always get an email that will say, email and or a letter, by the way, that will say, hey, something of your account has changed. If you did not change, if you initiate that change, then you need to either change your passwords or contact us. And so I will put a link to a video where I explain that a little bit better, where I explain that better so that you can take a look at that if you're interested. And so that's great. But what if you're not successful? What if they say they're not the person that can confirm the old and the new banking? Then you would simply say, right, can you provide a phone number or a more appropriate team member that can provide that information? And if they say no, say thank you for your time. I will follow up internally. That is the same thing, by the way, that you will say if the confirmation was not successful. You can tell them that the information does not match what was submitted. Ask them again to provide a phone number for a more appropriate team member that can provide the confirmation. And if they don't have one, again, tell them thank you for your time. You will follow up internally. All right, so that was kind of a long one, but it is the confirmation script, the first one we're going to talk about in this email or podcast series about changing banking details for ACH wire payment. Look for, I think I said 4 more. One for adding bank details for ACH wire payment. That's when you're adding, not changing. The next one is for adding a remittance address for check payment. Because remember, fraudsters are trying to get the checks too. Check fraud is up. So that's 2 more. And then the third one is changing the remittance address for a check payment. And then the fourth one is voicemail. So I have one for voicemail. And so I think it's a total of 4. I always lose count when I do that. It's going to be a total of 4 or total of 5. But make sure you come back because I will label them. This was number 1, and then I'll just keep labeling them until I'm done. All right, guys. So thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the 315th episode of the Putting the AP in Happy podcast, where accounts payable teams are empowered to protect the vendor master file from fraud. Don't forget to check the show notes for the links mentioned in the podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing and writing a review of my podcast on the platform that you use to listen. Stay happy.